Good morning. Welcome to part 3 of the PT1911 10mm conversion. What we're doing this morning is we are loading some dummy rounds so that we may cycle these rounds through the PT1911. What I'm doing here is the cases have already been sized and trimmed, and what I'm doing is just simply loading a bullet into an empty case with a spent primer. So we're going to go ahead and get this done real quick. I've loaded about 5. I got just a few more that I need to finish, so we'll go ahead and load these. Again, they are dummy rounds. There's no powder in them. I am putting a factory crimp on it. What the factory crimp is going to do is it's going to hold this in place so that as it cycles through the action, it will not be pushing the bullet into the case. It will actually maintain its length throughout the entire action. It's just a little precaution to make sure that it is in fact a real life situation. We want to get it to as close to the truth as possible without causing any danger to anybody. So here we have it. These are all dummy loads. They're ready to go. There is no powder in these whatsoever. They are in fact dummy loads. The primer, if you look, the primer has been spent. The primer is discharged. There's no powder in the cartridge. The primer has been used. It is simply an empty cartridge that is cut to size with a 165 grain bullet placed in it. And this is only so that we can check the action to see how it cycles in the firearm. So I'll meet you upstairs in just a moment. Okay, we're back upstairs and we have the 10mm magazine right here. We have the dummy cartridges that we just manufactured downstairs, and we have the converted PT1911 that we converted from 38 Super to 10mm. Now, what I do when I size these cases is I go to the absolute maximum of .992 from this point to this point. The reason I do that is if you start with the absolute maximum, you can assure that if it cycles properly at the top of the scale, that it's going to cycle properly as you progressively go down in your case size. The total length of the cartridge itself, the absolute maximum is 1.260. On the 165 grain bullet, I go ahead and place the total length on my completed cartridges at 1.256. So let's go ahead and measure that and see how well we did. So here you go, 1.256 on the dot. We want to make sure that when we do this, we're absolutely accurate and everything is absolutely precise. So we have basically the maximum overall length, and we have the maximum case length. So we're actually dealing with the absolute maximums. And again, we're doing this to make sure that it cycles on the top end, worst case scenario. If it cycles at maximum lengths of both the cartridge and the case, we know that it will cycle if we decrease that by certain percentages as the bullet weight and the charges vary. So let's go ahead and load the magazine with our bullets. We're going to go ahead and cycle them through the firearm so you can observe the fit and the ejection. And just to assure everybody, these are in fact dummy cartridges. You can see the spent primer. There is no powder in the cartridge. It does have the factory crimp. The reason for that is to keep the bullet in place as it cycles through the action, so it will not push the bullet into the case. We need as real world scenario as possible, and at the same time maintaining a high level of safety. You never want to put a loaded, primed cartridge in a firearm for any type of testing whatsoever. You want to make sure that it's tested with empty dummy cartridges before you even attempt to put a live cartridge in a firearm. So let's load these guys in the magazine, we'll cycle it, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so the cartridges have been placed in our magazine. This is our 10mm magazine, and here's our 10mm that we converted yesterday. We're going to go ahead and get this ready so that we can verify the ejection on it. Now, there's your 10mm. Absolutely beautiful, no problem whatsoever. Now, if you notice the safety on this, this is something that you want to check. When you get this conversion back from your gunsmith, make sure that the safety engages without any resistance whatsoever. It should be a smooth, positive transition between the fire mode and the safe mode. If, for instance, there's any resistance, let me push this slide back just a little bit to illustrate what will happen. It'll go to right here. If this happens, it's a clear indication that the barrel was not matched properly to the slide. Now let's just say it will engage, but there's resistance right here. Let me try to push this back enough to simulate it. Let's say it goes to this point and you got to kind of push it to get it in there, and you can feel the resistance that it's kind of pushing the slide forward as you try to engage that safety. Again, that's an indication that the fit is incorrect. Something in the specifications was not followed. It should be a smooth transaction. It should be a distinct click between the fire and safety position. There should not be any resistance whatsoever. A second indication is the back right here where the frame and the slide meet. This should be absolutely smooth. There should be no difference between the placement of the slide and the frame. If the slide protrudes past the frame, for instance like this, it's obvious that the barrel is not matched to the frame. It should be absolutely perfect, very, very smooth. I'm going to try to push my finger here to simulate a difference. If you feel a difference right here, if something just isn't right, your finger can feel it. It's almost like there's a sharp edge. The fit was not done properly. It should be absolutely smooth. The safety should engage without hesitation. So again, it's not a foolproof indication, but it's definitely a telltale sign that the fit was not done properly. So we have the full length 10mm cartridge already in the barrel, and we're going to go ahead and eject these shells so you can see the ejection of them. It's a positive ejection. It's really it's just very, very well. Let's see if we can see them. There's 1, 2, 3, and it locks. Absolutely flawless. Everyone chambered perfectly. There was no jams. They're full-length cartridges with full-length cases. Flawless. So what we're going to do at this point, we're going to load this guy up. We're going to go outside and we're going to test fire our 10mm conversion.